Okay, we
Okay,
are.
all rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the
flag
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 of the
United
United
States
States
of
of
America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under
under God, indivisible,
indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all.
for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez,
Present.
Councilman Larka,
Here.
Councilman Lord,
Here.
Councilman O'Connor,
Here,
Supervisor Haig.
Here. Okay, the first item on the agenda this evening is a public hearing on the rezoning of the Route 22 corridor. I'll waive the reading of the public hearing notice. And Eric, can you describe to the people how they can be recognized through Zoom?
Do we have to make a motion?
Oh, yeah, I made a motion. Is it second by,
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
I'll open this up and I'll allow, actually, if you go to participants and you raise your hand, we can unmute you. You can type in the chat that you'd like to be unmuted. Or I believe if you've dialed in, you could press *6 on your phone or *9.
I guess *9.
*9. So if anyone would like to speak, you could go next to your name and participants and raise your hand.
and prior to speaking, state your name for the record too, please.
Oh, I do have a brief presentation that I can. run before.
Okay,
I think that would be appropriate.
Hold on one second. Okay. So this is the Town of Southeast Route 22 Master Plan. The Planning Board made a recommendation to the Town Board back in early February, I believe. And the plan was referred to the Putnam County Planning, and they've responded that they have no objections. It was approved as submitted. So first, I'm just going to give you an overview of the process. The Route 22 Master Plan establishes criteria and design guidelines for the location, orientation of pedestrian movements, landscaping, stormwater management, bike and vehicular infrastructure. And the overall goal is to balance a healthy economic environment with quality of life infrastructure improvements that benefit both the town's residents and commercial businesses. We had a public process that was led by the Planning Board. There was an online survey that was conducted in August and September of 2020. Approximately 397 people responded. Of those, 339 were town residents and 22 were business or property owners along the corridor. We had 4 online workshops with the Planning Board and 1 public hearing. And at all of the workshops and at the public hearing, residents and business owners were invited to speak and share their ideas for the corridor. In going through the corridor, we broke it up into 3 sections. The first area was study area 1, and that was basically from the end of 684 up until about Milltown Road. The recommendations for that section of the corridor were to retain the existing zoning basically from just south of Milltown Road all the way to the end of 684. The recommendation was to retain the RC zoning. But once we get up further north, recommending rezoning Brewster Woods to RMF, which would make RMF conforming with the zoning, and to extend SR 22 down to the intersection just below Milltown Road. For study area 2, which was the next, the largest section of Route 22. So that's basically from Milltown Road to just north of the intersection of 312. The recommendation here was to extend SR 22 to capture Kelly's Corner and Ski House. And as I mentioned earlier, to extend SR 22 from basically Clock Tower Commons down to just south of Milltown Road. There's also a recommendation to update the allowable uses in SR 22, and I'll go through those shortly. The last section was roughly from Route 312 to the Patterson town line. For this section, the area we focused on is this area here on the west side of Route 22. For this section, the recommendation was to rezone this area here, which is currently RC, to HC. So that would be extending the existing HC district up to capture these 3 parcels that have direct frontage on Route 22. The next section is an existing area that's currently zoned RC, and to rezone that back to OP1. This is an area that had been zoned OP1 in the past. Just north of that is a small mixed-use area. There are some businesses as well as some single-family homes, and well, some of them have been converted to apartments, but this is basically a mixed-use area. And the recommendation here is to rezone it to a new RC2 district, which would be a mixed-use zoning district that would allow both commercial and residential uses. Basically to recognize the types of uses that exist there today. It would also allow general business use. So for SR 22, the zoning text changes that are recommended are to add some new conditional use permit uses, and those would be general business, theater and performing arts, research labs, animal hospitals and veterinary practices, and doggy daycare. And new special permit uses would be self-storage as an accessory use. It would not be allowed to have more than 20% of the gross floor area of a building. And there would be special permit criteria that would require it to be located in the rear of a structure. So if there was, for example, a shopping center along Route 22, and they had some dead space in the back, if they wanted to convert to a special permit, to a self-storage use, that potentially would be allowed. But to maintain the retail on the part of the structure that's facing the street. And also to add motor vehicle dealerships to SR 22. Other recommended zoning text changes are to increase the percentage of allowable residential. Right now it's capped at 20% in the district, and that would be allowed to increase. Then that would enable the creation of a live work zoning designation and new special permit criteria to go with that. Also to increase the maximum building size in the SR 22 district and to remove some of the drive-through restrictions. For the HC zoning district, this is the only district in town that currently has a self-storage building, and that's the Life Storage building, which is pre-existing non-conforming. So one recommendation would be to add self-storage as a conditional use permit use to HC, which would legalize that life storage use. And also here to remove some of the drive-through restrictions. For the RC zoning district, the recommendation is to allow single-family residential at the same density as R160, which is a 4-acre zone. So it would be 1 single-family home per 4 acres, and to allow accessory residential to commercial uses. The new RC2 would be to allow the same uses as RC, including the proposed allowance of single-family residential, and to allow general business as a permitted principal use. And it would also reduce the minimum lot size and setbacks. And that would allow a lot of those existing businesses and residences along Old Doansburg Road to be in conformance and to improve their properties. The master plan also includes some general recommendations about conceptual bike lanes and trail connections, as well as some landscaping design guidelines. So there are 3 zones that would be designated. There would be the commercial zone, which has some more formal planting recommendations. There's the transitional zones just to the north and the south of that, which would be a little bit more suburban. And then there's the rural zones at either end. In regards to the commercial planting zones, there are included some very specific planting recommendations to create a more cohesive corridor. So specifically street trees, the types of shrubs that would survive along this corridor, as well as perennials. There are also some general recommendations regarding hardscaping and the use of street furniture to also assist in creating a more cohesive look to the corridor. And that's the brief summary. So at this point, I'll stop sharing the screen. And we're available to take comments.
Okay, Eric?
Yeah, so again, if you raise your hand, we can unmute you. You can do that by clicking on participants and then next to your name, you should be able to raise your hand. We do have somebody that raised their hand. Let me ask them to unmute. Sam?
Yes.
Okay.
First of all, good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for doing this. I've been a property owner in Southeast. We own the former Golf Dome property. You guys hear me? Let me just try to my camera working. Okay, the host doesn't let me. Okay, fine. We own the former Golf Dome property. We've been trying to develop this property for the last 15 years. You probably all know this property right across the shopping, right across the Acme supermarket. Do you hear me well?
Yes.
Yeah, you could try to turn your camera on now. You should be able to.
Okay, I don't know. Okay, fine. If you hear me, I don't know why it's not going.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, perfect. So I've been trying for the last 10, 15 years to develop this property, and the challenges have been, again, number one has been the zoning. Number two is just the retail commercial market over the last 10 years. It's really been difficult to develop suburban office and retail. And on top of that was the sewer situation. Sewer in that area, sewer on our property is just not available. So when we looked at this, we have developed senior housing in different areas. We looked at this and we said, okay, this would be approximately 100 acres, 10 acres could be buildable. We can probably do our in-house septic. We can probably go ahead and build approximately 100 units senior housing and an aesthetically pleasing self-storage facility right up the front, which when you pass on 22, you're not going to be able to really look at the self-storage. You're only going to see a nice building in the front. I looked at the survey that you guys sent out to many residents in the area. And the main concern people were really focusing on was mostly increasing the tax base and limiting of traffic, which senior housing and self-storage really tends itself to both. You'll have a lot more increased taxes, but not a lot of use, a lot of using the money that you have to pay for services, because you'll have self-storage does not require that many services, and the same thing with senior housing. I would strongly encourage if you could add senior housing, not only as an accessory use, add senior housing, even if it's only 20% of the total property size, but you can really increase your tax base. And I really think that if you explain it, if you focus on aesthetically looking with a special permit, I really think it will benefit the town. There's a huge need for self-storage. And if you can control it and look nice and look pretty, and it will bring in a lot of taxes, and it doesn't require a lot of sewer, I think it can be a massive benefit to the town and for us. And the same thing goes with senior housing. If you look at all the studies that was done in Putnam County and surrounding areas, there's a huge need for senior housing that people can afford. And if you can build 100 units senior housing, plus a nice size self-storage facility that looks good, I think the town will gain a lot. I think we will gain a lot. So I'm encouraging you, and I'm asking you to please look at that as an option for the Route 22 corridor, and especially on this property. And I think that will open up a lot more different other properties. Thank you for listening. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. We have another person with their hand up. Miriam.
Again, state your name for the record. We may know you, but we may not be able to see your name on the screen. So just state your name for the record as well.
Miriam Yakutiel, I'm from Brewster. My concern is that there are not enough recreation area. I mean, we have a lot of houses, a lot of businesses, but we need recreation. We need a place where we can go out, just to be out, to sit at the park or whatever. We don't have it. And what you do, you're just adding more to the traffic on Route 22 as it is. It's horrible. So I think that there should be more recreation, maybe near the supermarket area or by the miniature golf place where people can go and spend the afternoon there. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Let's see. So Lisa Lisi, I see your hand is up, but it doesn't show that you are connected to audio. Can you try to unmute yourself?
If not, Eric, she can call me on my phone and I'll put it on that way.
Or
Okay.
she can type her comment in the chat box as well.
At least I saw your hand raised. Again, it's not allowing
Can
me
you hear
to,
now?
yes,
Okay, I apologize, everybody. I was having some technical difficulties. It says I need to update my browser in Chrome so that I can have the full experience. So I'm sorry for that. I'm on the call today and, thank you very much for doing this. My son is also on the call, Anthony Jr. And you should probably unmute yourself too. In case you don't know, our family owns Lisi's Towing in Brewster, and we're second generation. And right now, we're in a succession plan to transition the business over to our children, my son Anthony and my daughter Violet. We're bursting at the seams at the corner of Route 6 and 22, and we have been spending enormous amount of time trying to find an appropriate piece of property that would work for our business. We've looked at several, and so far the most desirable one happens to be on Route 22. And I just wanted to ask if there was a possibility that we could discuss a special use permit where we would be far away from Route 22, not visible to the motoring public, and move from our location on the corner.
Ashley?
Just to clarify, the request is that to add a motor vehicle service station, which allows for a towing use to the Route 22 corridor as a new special permit use. And I believe that the property that they're interested in is on the northern end of Route 22 on the east side of the road near the Patterson border, where there was previously a warehouse had been proposed for that location. But it's separated from Route 22 by that little bow in Old Route 22.
Yes.
So just to clarify for this evening, so this is the first public hearing that the town board is having on the draft master plan for Route 22. Following the receipt of all of these public comments, we will have I'll have a follow-up meeting with the town board to discuss which of these recommendations the town wants to make or change to the plan, how we want to change the plan to address these public comments. And then once you're comfortable with the revised plan, then the town could move forward with adopting the master plan. And then from that point, the town would be able to adopt any zoning changes that correspond to the recommendations in the master plan.
Okay, Lisa, you good with that?
Yes, that's great. Thank you very much for the opportunity, and we'll continue to pursue it. Thank you.
Okay, Anthony Jr.?
No, that's it. I mean, we definitely want to continue to grow, in our town here, and we appreciate the opportunity to, try to make this happen and all the help doing so.
Okay, it'll be reviewed.
thank you guys for all the parades this year, or last year. It was awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I hope we, I didn't think it was going to be such a,
Oh, we lost you.
Ashley, what's the zoning for the area that the Lisi's were looking to move to?
The current zoning for that parcel is OP2.
OP2. Okay.
I can just share my screen quickly.
And those aren't permitted uses there at this point?
It's this parcel right here, and currently motor vehicle service station is not a permitted use in OP2.
Thank you.
Okay,
So one of the things, if I could just add something, so this particular piece of property is definitely the right size and scale for our business. But the plus is that we'll be very far off the road it's not going to be visible, and, you know, that's important to us. You know, we did try to improve the location that we're currently working from, but the size of the property, we've come to the town before and we weren't able to do that. We actually wanted to change the facade and make it look more like, as a reference point, Patterson Auto Body up on Route 22. But now our business has grown so much, we're bursting at the seams, and, you know, we cringe when we go by, because what more can we do? We have, you know, tons of trees there, and, you know, and that's all we can really do, right?
I believe so. You've done well.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, guys. Carla Lucino. You can unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes,
Thanks for just a couple of minutes to speak. I want to make some comments that I made similar comments to the planning board when they held their public hearing. I thought the plan was very good. I think it's great for the town. And I would just recommend that when the final decisions are made as to what we want to move forward with, that we put an implementation plan together so it actually happens. Because there's a tendency sometimes when you have these studies to take a long time to implement, or sometimes they sit on a shelf and they don't move forward as you plan. So people would be very excited that people are excited that we've done this. And so the expectation is high that there's going to be change. So just recommend you think about putting together a plan and you actually execute the plan and get some things done. Thanks very much. Oh, I'm 203 Allview Avenue in Brewster. Sorry.
thank you.
Anybody else wish to speak? I have it open so you can unmute yourselves. Going once. Going twice. Okay, I think we've heard from all the public.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing this evening and we'll allow a 10-day period to send in additional written comments to the town board. So moved.
Did we want to hear from the town board members?
If you want to speak, speak. We're going once, now we're going four. Go.
Eric had said that may want to speak to some of these issues or something about the plan after the public spoke. That's what he.
Yeah, actually I did. John, did you have something? You can go first if you had something.
I have a bunch of stuff, so.
All right, I'll go first.
Okay.
So I just, I read through this plan, and Ashley, I think everyone did a great job, the planning board and you, and thank you for working so hard on it. I just had a couple concerns with the survey, right? So when I attended the planning board meetings, there was a lot of emphasis put on the survey, and I believe we received around 400 responses on that survey. And in reading through some of the comments, I think there was also within that 400, because it wasn't, you could do it multiple times. There was several situations or instances of repeated feedback, right? Like, so I don't know if you guys can see my camera here, but here's an example. So these are comments that we received. This particular person wrote in here, town board approvals are outdated, and regulations restrict new business from opening. And they wrote that 8 times. So, which I think is why we're here. But my point is, for this question, there was about 35 responses that were duplicates. So maybe around 10% of the results. So that brings me back to self-storage, because like the gentleman that spoke earlier, and I've not spoken with him personally, but I do see that as a really interesting use. It has very little impact to traffic, water usage, which is typically a problem for us with the DEP regulations. And you can see here the results. The red is what the public discouraged for that. So I just wanted to share with the board what I think may have contributed to those results. So let me share my screen real quick.
Yeah, just to clarify that the survey was anonymous, and so yes, you could fill it out more than once. There probably were instances of a single person answering the questions more than once, and there also may have been some coordination of form letter responses.
Yeah, yeah. So, because I had asked a few people since the survey went out, when you think of self-storage, what do you think of? And this is what the common response is, right? This is, I think, when the public thinks self-storage building, they think about this. We have, I get it used to be Uncle Bob's. I'm not sure what it's called now, in town, right? And someone had recently shared with me a picture or a building. Let me see if I can share it. This is a self-storage in Katona. And obviously it's much more aesthetically pleasing. It is a building that could probably have multi-uses. And again, I would be in favor of having it be a special permit use beyond the 20%, because it would generate tax revenue and have very little impact on resources, including traffic. And I think with a special permit, we could restrict, one, it's the aesthetics of the building, but we could even have maybe perhaps, I don't know, the building built in such a way that it could be repurposed for some other category that's allowed within the zone, and have that be part of the approval process. But that was the only comment that I really wanted to make about this plan. Otherwise, I think it's really good.
So your comment is basically that the surveys could have been skewed by multiple entries. And so the fact that 67% of the people that responded said they didn't want self-storage should not be taken seriously?
No. I would say that I don't know if I would put 100% of my decision-making based on a survey that one is a really small portion of the population, and two, could have some flaws in the data. And then three, for the specific questions that were asked, I don't know if the context was there. So for example, this question is, for each of the land uses listed below, please indicate whether you think this should be encouraged, discouraged, no change, or no opinion. And it just says self-storage. And I would argue, in my opinion, that if you had put a picture of this type of self-storage that's aesthetically pleasing, that you would have a different result. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not saying I'm discounting the whole survey in its entirety, but I'm saying I'm interpreting it a little bit differently than just the raw results.
I agree with your assessment about the probably resource use and how self-storage would not be as impactful. But I would take into consideration what the public thought. But I can see your point, and I could see that it could be something that businesses and also the public may want in our zoning on Route 22, but I don't want to completely discount what the public thinks. So the fact that life storage, or the existing storage that we have that is, I guess, not a permitted use in that zone now at HC, I think we're planning to now make it a conditional use in that zone. Is that right?
I think
That's
it's
what's proposed.
Okay, that's the proposal. And if we did, would that allow other self-storage facilities to go into that zone as conditional uses instead of a special permit use?
It would allow other, if you added self-storage as a conditional use permit use to the HC zoning district, which is what life storage is zoned at today, there would be a few other parcels within the town that would also be eligible to be rezoned to have self-storage.
And
Those are primarily over at the Route 312 and I-84 interchange.
And conditional use permits are not as restrictive as special permit uses?
They're very similar. they both have performance criteria that need to be met to allow that use to go forward. The difference is that a conditional use permit is granted by the planning board and the special permit is granted by the town board.
Okay,
And just real quick, John, I was referring to SR 22 where it's being added as a special permit use. So I would be in favor of it being as a special permit use in SR 22. I do like the special permit procedure, and that's what I would be in favor for.
yeah, that's kind of what I would think, but I guess we want to make the life storage or the existing self-storage facility legal in some sense. Is there any other way of doing that without allowing a conditional use permit to be the determinant in the zone?
Well, we could change it to special permit instead of conditional use permit for HC.
Okay.
But that would, the only other way, if you wanted to target it just for the existing self-storage that's in the town, you'd have to rezone that its own type of zoning, which it isn't really great planning practice.
Okay, all right. Okay, that's one thing. I think, and the self-storage would be 20% of the gross floor area in a zone, is that right?
That's how it's proposed right now for SR 22.
Okay. All right. My other thing that I was concerned about was auto dealerships. They're not permitted, or new auto dealerships are permitted on 15-acre zones. Used car dealerships are not permitted in the town. I think the recommendation is to reduce the size of the lot to 4 acres, which I think is quite a change. And also the recommendation is to allow used car dealerships to be, this is all in SR 22, to be in the zone. So SR 22 is not just, it is pretty sizable area. So more than one auto dealership could be located in the zone along Route 22. And I think the survey, although it could have been flawed, had 63% of the residents or 63% of the respondents saying that they were not in favor of auto dealerships. And that was not even considering, and since in our town we've only allowed new auto dealerships, I don't think used auto dealerships was even a consideration. So I probably would not be in favor of, first of all, changing the lot size. I know that you would, if it's in the SR 22 zone, it would be a special permit use. So it would be subject to study by the planning board and then again by the town board before such a use could occur. But the way the master plan reads now, or the master plan update for Route 22 reads now, I wouldn't be in favor of it. When does the special use criteria get incorporated into the master plan?
So right now, the master plan has some concepts of what would be proposed for the special permit criteria. Based on this conversation tonight, and where the town board just, with the direction that the town board wants to go with this, I would draft a specific zoning text amendment that you would then consider for adoption following the adoption of the master plan. The zoning needs to match the language that's in the master plan, because all zoning needs to be based on a well-reasoned plan.
Good, yeah. Well, I think I've laid out my reason or my thoughts on why I wouldn't want the SR 22 to, first of all, reduce the size of auto dealerships to be allowed in the town. And I know that there are some concepts, I guess, that you had in the master plan as to how we could control and guide any application for auto dealerships. But again, I think we need to be really precise with what we do. I wouldn't want the master plan to be used in a way that the residents would not appreciate it years into the future, much like what happened at Pugsley Road and warehouses becoming logistics centers. But anyway, thank you.
Ashley, I do believe most of the auto dealerships we have here in the town are much less than 15 acres. So,
Right, so the origins of the 15 acres were back when you did your comprehensive plan update in 2014. At that point in time, auto dealerships were not a permitted use anywhere in the town. And what was happening is the auto dealerships were trying to make upgrades and changes to their properties. And it was very difficult for them to make any improvements because they were all pre-existing non-conforming uses.
Charlie,
So,
what's in there?
so after the comprehensive plan update, we added a new special permit use, which was a motor vehicle dealership. And there's a provision in there that for the existing dealerships, they're exempted from that 15-acre minimum. But at that point in time, the idea was that if any new dealerships came forward, the town wanted them to be on a larger lot so that they wouldn't be as crowded and they wouldn't be dealing with some of the same issues that some of the existing dealerships have been dealing with not having enough room for car storage. And that they could also be set back further from the road. At that time, the thought was that an appropriate place for them to locate would be out on SR6, on Route 6, the Village and Danbury, where there were some larger lots available. Since that time, there has been some new types of car dealerships that are popping up, especially in regards to used cars, where there's a lot of dealers that are operating primarily online. And they just have a small lot for where you would go to pick up the car or where it would be stored. So that's one use that the planning board was talking about. And one you may see commercials for is Carvana. The other issue is that there are also dealerships like a Tesla, for example, that can operate in a very small space. They have spaces within shopping malls. So the thought was that maybe we could reconsider that 4-acre minimum and also consider additional performance criteria to address any other concerns.
Thank you. Eric, Mr. Barnabano, you wanted to speak?
You can unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Thank you. Mr. Lord, I just want to give you some background. I was representing one of the stakeholders in connection with this specific request, and that is the owner of the Dills Realty site, which, as you all know, I think has been vacant for probably 15 years. And the other thing that I did is my client who owns that happens to be in an automotive business, owning over 13 dealerships from Nassau County through down to Palm Beach. And the thought was that we would like to propose some special permit conditions, which I think you had an interest in. What would the conditions be? And yes, we did talk about the minimum lot size of 4 acres, but what I did is I provided to the planning board a survey, not merely of the existing dealerships in Southeast, but I went into Mount Kisco, Bedford, et cetera, like Ashley was talking about. And what you find is that those dealerships are located on lots substantially smaller than 4 acres. So we proposed that, and we also proposed that we all want to get away. I'm sure that you understand it. We all want to get away from the concept of the used car lot, which is, a trailer with a sea of cars. That was never, ever our intention. So we proposed not only the minimum lot size, but we also proposed a minimum building size. And if you think about the concept of, if you require a minimum of 4 acres and you require a minimum building size, I think that is presently proposed of 7,500 square feet. You're talking about an investment in this town of multiple millions of dollars in order to do that. So you're not going to see a lousy used car dealership. You're going to see, like we were referring to, like a Carvana, the new trend in pre-owned vehicles, and that's why we wanted to permit the pre-owned as well as new vehicle dealerships. And quite honestly, if you look at it, I think that you'll find that new car dealerships today do exist on substantially small lots. And I think that this is a use where you have properties in the town that are underutilized for all these years and may be uniquely suited for that use. Because remember, we all know what we're dealing with here. We don't merely have constraints in terms of size, we have constraints in terms of septic and whatnot. So we were trying to get this property to be able to be utilized for a purpose which will bring sales tax revenue to town, jobs to towns, convenience to the town as well. And that's why we really proposed it. But we also proposed special permit conditions that didn't allow for traditional concept of an old used car lot, but that was the rationale behind it. That's why we brought it forward. We worked very closely with the planning board and with Ashley in order to get them to favor and make this recommendation to you. So that's the genesis of it.
Ashley, with this proposal we have in front of us, I'm not sure if it was discussed during previous meetings. Could there be something written in, like if it's a new and used car, and that a used car could not be a lot by itself and it couldn't take up more than, say, 10% of a lot size? Would that be helpful?
I mean, that's a potential concept, but one of the issues that we're seeing, not just in Southeast, but in other communities, is with new uses like Carvana, they only sell used cars or pre-owned cars. And it's not a traditional used car lot per se.
And that was part of our motivation in bringing that concept to the planning board, is that we're talking about, again, whether you characterize them as certified pre-owned, the pre-owned vehicles that someone would build this type of mandated dealership for are going to be quality vehicles. And that's why we wanted to have this as a permitted principal use. In other words, it could be a new car dealership, or it could be a pre-owned dealership, because that is the concept that's moving forward throughout the whole country.
Mr. Martivano, I did attend all the meetings, and I was there when you presented, and I've seen seen some of the things that you sent to us. My concern was having multiple car dealerships that are only limited to 4 acres in the SR 22 zone. I understand that you're representing Leah, and that's the property that you own, and it fits in nicely with going forward with the family business. But my reaction is, first of all, residents didn't want auto dealerships, and secondly, with a 4 acre minimum, a number of dealerships could fit along the SR 22 corridor. So those were my objections. And
I understand that, and I think that as the special permit conditions are developed, I think you'll feel better about it. I hope you will anyway.
thank you.
Thank you.
My comments to that, I'm glad you brought up Dills. I always envisioned, and I know, Brewster Honda, I think, thought about it too, just like what they have Q-Tip down there that just preps cars and details them and stuff like that. I always envisioned something like that at Dills Best, a place where you can go get your car detailed or whatever. So it's just interesting. And I mean, Eric Cypress, I see he's on the call, but he's always talking about CarMax, and they represent exactly, it's not your typical used car dealership anymore. It's, it's a nice place when you go look at it.
I am so
buying a used car there.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because if you take a look at the trades, you'll see that CarMax recently made initial moves down into Long Island area, and what they're building spectacular facilities. I'm talking about taking part of a Home Depot. I'm telling you, this is a trend that is, I think, a really good trend. And again, to go back, I understood, and as Mr. Lord would say from my correspondence, we understand the old concept of used car lots, and that's never, ever going to be in our contemplation. Our contemplation was a quality facility and with a minimum building size of 7,500 square feet. I think that this will work out very, very well. And the new pre-owned dealerships are going to be, I think, the wave of the future. Because think about it, I don't want to ever talk about car dealers because I come from a car dealing family, but today when you go to buy remember that? Today, when you go to buy a car, it's like when I bought my first house. I don't mean to date myself, but these things are very, very expensive. But that also makes the quality used car market something that really is going to be very well embraced. And if you properly regulate how they're going to appear as part of the special permit process with the town board input, but as part of the SR 22 regulations, you can end up with a real quality facility everybody will be proud of. And as I said, the sales tax revenue is very significant. I really think it's a great opportunity. And that's why I also did the survey, Mr. Lord, that you referred to, where you can see whether it's Tesla in Mount Kisco or whether it's Chrysler in Mount Kisco. The fact of the matter is quality dealerships with adequate facilities can be put on lots far less than 4 acres. But we went in with the 4 acres because we thought that it fit much better. But anyway, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk.
I had 3 quick things. One, I don't think the sales tax is a good argument just because you got to pay Putnam County tax no matter where you buy a car, and we don't get it. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
I thought some portion did go to the town. Am I wrong?
Zero.
Oh, well then you have to change that with the.
Oh, good try. I
Yeah,
did
you're
it
right.
3
That's
times.
another battle for another day.
I'll help you
Anyway,
on that.
I just want to make 2 points to the board. One, when I think of a used car lot, new modern one, I think of Weeks Auto Corp on, I think that's what they're called, on Route 6 on Old Mill Plain. It's a used arm of Volkswagen Audi. It's like right by Dutchess, and it's a beautiful facility. It looks like a new car dealership, except there's fairly new used cars on it. And then I think about another applicant that came forward to a town planning board staff meeting probably 2 years ago, who was looking to rent space in the Lakeview Plaza, and he had classic cars, and he was going to rent out the old flooring store, I believe it was at the time, or the laundromat, and keep 6 to 7 really high-end classic cars in there as a showroom. He would have a few off-site, and he would be a dealer. He would have sell maybe 10 to 15 cars a year, a really kind of a niche market. And we couldn't approve that, even though it seemed like a cool concept because of these restrictions. So I thought that would have been a neat use for that space, but I just wanted to bring those points up to the board.
I also just want to point out, although I didn't get a chance to present it, and then quite honestly, because I didn't have enough time to put some landscaping in, but we went forward and just did a little design concept. And if you like, I'll try to have that a little bit more refined and show it to you, just to give you a concept of what it could look like on that site. I can do that if you like.
Up to you.
Okay, thank you.
Any further comment?
I do, and I hope I'm not out of line. I don't want to put the leases on the spot. I'm a fan. I like the business. I support them. Just, and if I'm out of line, then just let me know. Wasn't there a rumor that you were going to go around the Dykmans? So I'm just envisioning where Morrow Crane was supposed to go, and that got shot down. And again, I don't want to get into your business. I'm sure you've done a business plan and you know your business and where you need to go, but I just think of where Morrow Crane was going to go. That might be another good alternative for you, but maybe you've thought about it and it doesn't work for you. And maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about. So I apologize in advance.
Edwin, that property's been bought by someone and has an intended use.
Oh, okay. So I guess I'm behind the times. Thank you.
Only a little bit. Any other comments? Okay, again, I'll make a recommendation. We'll extend public hearing by mail, email, and 10 days. Is there a second for that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Next
Aye.
item on,
Thank you all.
thank you. Next item on the work session is discussion for protocol for interviewing the various board candidates. Okay, we've had different ways of doing it, and in the past, the planning board has made a recommendation. I think, Eric, when you got onto the planning board, you were interviewed by the planning board, the town board. What was going on this time, we had at least 4 candidates. It was forwarded down to the planning board to make, to kind of do like a consolidation and make a recommendation to the town board. They came up with 2 candidates, but I guess there's a feeling by the town board, we might want to interview and not include the planning board or the boards involved in that. So let's discuss what we might want to do with the current one, because if there was an interview process done, and if you think we want to do the interviewing and not have the input of the planning board, or do we want the input in the planning board? What do we want to do in the future? And it starts tonight, because we do have a planning board seat that's open that has to be filled.
I think we've done it both ways in the past, and we've kind of, maybe flip-flopping is a poor choice of words, but we flip-flopped or gone back and forth. Not to put any of the boards on notice or, on blast. Just simply, some of the boards have been hesitant or reluctant to interview candidates. They wanted no part of it. And I was like, no, we'd rather have the town board do it. In my opinion, the planning board has always been open to, sure, come on down, we'll interview you. I'm in favor of letting the boards interview and kind of, give us the short, the 1 or 2 candidates, the short picks. But I think as the town board, we could still reserve the right to say, you know what, I'd still like to see that other candidate, regardless of whether they chose him or not. But for the most part, 99% of the time, take their recommendation and then move forward with that.
Okay, that's basically what I think this plan would be. In other words, right now, we had 4 candidates go in front of them, 2 came out. However, if our board wants to interview another candidate, we are not prohibited from doing that.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
Right now, I'm good with the 2 recommendations they made. I don't see, me personally, I don't need to go backwards and want to move forward, but obviously there's 4 other votes or 4 other people who may want to speak.
well, I would support the way you put it forward. In other words, if there's only 2 candidates, like even if there's 2 candidates, I mean, the planning board are the experts, the ZBA, the experts. I don't know what board may not have wanted to do it at the time, but they deal with the people. They have to work with the people. They can interview them. I mean, they deal with the trade now. Some of the people have been on board for quite some time. So again, if an application comes into the board, again, if it's only 1, it's going to be very easy to do. If there's more than 1, do it that way. So I would support the way Edwin had it. If we have to do it by resolution, by a motion. So that's 2 for that. And we got 3 other board members to make comment.
I've gone through the process, basically exactly how Edwin described it. And I'd also be in favor of that. I like the 2 rounds of interviews. I think that there's a different perspective on the boards and perhaps some different questions that may get asked. So I would second what Edwin has proposed.
John?
I went through the same process as Eric, but I lost. But in Eric's case, it was only the planning board that heard, and they whittled it down to just Eric as the final candidate. So I would be in favor of having the planning board or the zoning board of appeals or assessment review board talk to candidates in advance and then give their recommendation to the town board, and the town board could interview the applicants as well. I learned a lot when the planning board interviewed the 4 candidates for this position now. I was listening in on the call, and I thought that the questions were great, and I thought that the applicants did well in answering the questions, and I understood the reasons for the planning board recommending the 2 candidates that they did. So I think it may be more onerous on the candidates. But I think it would help both boards to select the best person to be appointed. So if that's what Eric, or if that's what Edwin and Eric and Tony are also suggesting, I agree. I think it's a good plan.
Connor?
Oh, so my concern is having consistency in the way it's done every time. So what, I think having the boards, if they're willing to interview the candidates prior to us interviewing the candidates, I think that's good because again, at some point, once we appoint them as the appointing authority, they're going to have to work with those people. So would like to get that input. But at the end of the day, while we should take the recommendation from, I guess, the receiving board or the board with the vacancy, if you want to put it that way, they at the end of the day, we are still the appointing authority. So we should be making the decisions as far as which candidates that we're going to be interviewing, because the authority lies solely with the town board. So to have a cutoff prior to them coming before us, I think, again, a recommendation, but not a cutoff.
Well, there's no guarantee of a cutoff. So right now, we had a process. We sent 4 candidates down, 2 have come back. We know the names. So after this meeting tonight, if one of the other board members wants to interview either of the other 2 candidates or both of those candidates, we will do that.
I'm sorry, John O'Connor, I don't understand, the cutoff, what? You
Well-
lost me there with that term, like, what are you talking about?
So the email, if I remember correctly, I mean, I could look it up, but the email was we were going to just interview the 2 candidates that have been recommended by the planning board.
Yes.
Right, okay.
So,
And what we're saying, well, again, if anyone wanted to have an additional person, we didn't say it, but it's out there. Again, 2 were recommended, which we're going to bring in. If anyone feels that there's another candidate they want to interview, there's 2 other candidates, you want them both, then we will interview both. We're not bound by what we're asked to do. We do make the final decision. So I think we're all kind of saying the same thing. It's just, I think, bottom line, it's not a free for all, but we had a recommendation for 2.
it didn't seem that it was presented that way. Because if I were to read the email, it seems like, well, these are the 2 candidates we're interviewing and that's it.
Well, but, okay, so what I'm saying tonight, that is it, unless someone comes forward and sends me an email and tells me they want to interview one of the other 2 candidates or both of those candidates, that's what the town board will do. The town board does make the final decision.
I'd like to interview all the candidates.
You want them all?
I would like to.
Okay, done. Does everyone agree with that? I don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, I have no interest in interviewing all 4. I'm good with the 2 that were presented, but,
I'm fine with interviewing all 4.
Okay, I'm for 2 that we had put in front of us. So Eric,
I'm for the 2
okay,
in this case.
yeah.
So going forward, what's the procedure? Because I think that was the
Exactly.
John O'Connor's bringing this to the floor here. I think
Okay.
to only have it just the planning or the town board accepting only the recommendations of a board that does the interviews, or are we
Again, we're doing it in public right now, but I just asked the entire board. We have 3 members who will take the recommendations and not look to interview the other 2 candidates. If
Okay.
one other person changes that, we will interview them all. I think that's the best democratic process to go. I don't know.
Okay, so going forward, are we going?
Same thing.
Boards?
If we get 3 applicants for the next one and we send them to the ZBA and they recommend 2, there's nothing denying us to have the 3rd person come in for an interview if we choose to.
Here's a question.
Okay.
So at the beginning of 2020, were that group of candidates were sent before the planning board or not?
I don't recall because we've gone back and forth both times. I
They
don't.
were not. I think I was,
And that's what I'm
Sure.
saying is part of the problem. We have to memorialize this one way or the other. Okay, so if we're going to move forward and send candidates for any of the subordinate boards in the town before those boards, when there is a vacancy, then that has to be said, number one. And then what happens right after that? Are we going solely with the recommendation? Or
No,
like in this case, well, wait, in this case, hold on. In this case, all of a sudden we just voted on whether we're just interviewing these two candidates. We're talking about the whole process from soup to nuts, not just this particular instance.
And earlier you said that if any of us wanted to interview other candidates for this, we should send you an email. So should I now send you an email saying I want to interview another candidate for this?
not another candidate, only ones that made it during the time frame. But at this point in time, there doesn't seem to be support for that.
Well,
Okay, look at, I will write something up and see if we can agree on how it's gonna be done in the future.
I think we did just said that, and this is to John O'Connor. I think we just said, we will, going forward, we will send them to all the subordinate boards, whether it's 2 candidates, 3 candidates, 4, hopefully they narrow it down to 2. And if we like the recommendations and we're good with those 2, those are the 2 we will interview. If for whatever reason we still feel like, no, we need to interview all 4 or the third person, then it's our prerogative to do so.
but it's only our prerogative if the majority of
If
the
there-
board
yeah.
says so.
Well, it makes
Right, 'cause-
sense.
But yeah, otherwise we might as well then just always interview all of them. And then what's the point of sending them to the subordinate boards?
In order to get more feedback, their recommendation, we're sending them to the other board to get a recommendation.
Right,
Okay.
so we're defeating the point of getting a recommendation if we're then only going to constantly ignore it. At that point, we might as well then just interview everybody.
Edwin, I would beg to differ. We're not ignoring the recommendation. We're accepting the recommendation and then still making our own decision.
We are,
And I think we're doing that right now.
yeah.
We're not allowing the other or other applicants to be interviewed by us.
Because there's 3 members of the board that don't want to do it. I mean, again, it's either we do it or we don't do it.
You know, I'm fine. I do like the belt and suspenders, both boards interviewing and the subordinate boards making a recommendation. I'm fine with, I'm backpedaling here a little bit, but I'm fine if we have to interview all the candidates, but, in certain cases, it could be a waste of their time. But, if that's a way to just make this consistent and so that we're not voting, it's the vote before the vote, which, does seem kind of clumsy. I could be fine with that.
Yeah, I mean, again, and I think what John was saying there is by allowing the recommendation to be, it basically becomes, a vote ahead of time. Okay, and it excludes the other candidates from becoming before the board that actually has the authority to appoint them at the end of the day. I mean, I don't know, Will, can you correct me on that?
I mean, this happens at jobs in general. I mean, you have 3 or 4 candidates, you have too many, you whittle down to the top 2, and then you proceed with those 2 candidates. It's advertised, they're all given an opportunity to interview at the subordinate board. I don't think there's anything that's unfair about the process, but I'll let Will weigh in.
John, there's as far as I know, there is no statutory protocol or procedure for determining how to pick members of, as you call them, subordinate boards. This town has, over the many years I've been involved in this town, had a sort of a haphazard approach to these things. There was a time that whoever the planning board or zoning board chose, the town board would rubber stamp it. It's gotten in recent years a little bit more involved on the town board level, which I think is more appropriate. I think what happened or what has occurred in this instance is probably more of an effort to to save time and resources on the town board level by having the subordinate board look at multiple candidates and make a recommendation. Certainly nothing they recommend is binding on the town board. And if you want to adopt a formal protocol, which to my knowledge has never been done in this town, and there may be other towns that have formal protocols, and I could certainly research that. But again, in statute, there's other than to say that the town board is the appointing authority, there's really nothing to say how the process works.
Okay, thank you, Will.
Does that answer your question, John?
For the most part, yes, sir.
Okay.
Okay, where we go from here?
Okay, so
I think 3 members have agreed that we had a process of 2 put in front of the board. If 3 people want to interview an additional candidate or both candidates, we will do that. It's part of the process.
Again, I don't think it's this particular instance
It's,
that we're talking
it's not,
about.
it's the future, it's tonight
It's
and the
tonight.
future.
Correct. So 3 board members are proposing that another board is going to interview candidates and move forward only the ones that they considered for their recommendation.
In this particular case, that's what ended up happening. Yes, if we do that.
well,
In the future, now look, the next round, let's say we have someone for the ZBA 2 weeks from now.
Mhm.
And they interview 2 people and send us 1, I would interview both people. I would. I mean, we had 4
Then
people.
it's not consistent.
We don't have to.
Again,
No,
we can take the recommendation from the boards,
we can.
okay, and acknowledge that recommendation, and at the same time, again, it's our decision to appoint. So I think having all the candidates that had made it before the deadline interview before the board, if they're still willing to do so, okay, is the proper way to do things, okay, and while we vote and consider on the board's recommendation that time. Anybody agree with that?
We're going around in circles.
Yeah, I feel asked and answered already to sound like a lawyer. We're saying that we're gonna, send people to the boards, take the recommendations, and if we choose not to take the recommendations and interview all the candidates, then we will. But if we decide we're not, I don't know. I'm really starting to get baffled right now. And like Tony says, we're just going around and around right now in circles.
if in the future we do it and we like the 2 recommendations that they've given us,
No, you pick 1.
and I know, but I'm just saying, that means that some people that were interviewed by them, we didn't like, but we didn't really get a chance to listen to them. And we're just trusting the planning board to be or the zoning board. It was,
Well, it's 7 well-qualified people, hopefully helping to make that decision.
okay. I know that when
We
planning,
still make the final decision.
yeah, but we've already eliminated 2 people.
That's what I'm
We're
exactly
making,
what I'm
we're
saying.
making the final decision, but it's already been limited to 2 people.
It sounds like 2 members want to interview all candidates regardless. We have 3 at this present time, and the next time it could change. That what we went through is sufficient. They went through a process. And if there's an additional person, if someone wants to have another person come in, we can do that. Right now, we have 2 people recommended. There's 2 people that didn't make the cut, which happens all the time in anything you do. Right now, we have 3 members of the board that says, I'm satisfied with the 2 candidates going. If and the other 2 want the other 2 candidates to come forward, the democracy says it's 3-2. If it's 4-1, then it goes if we want to see them all. I don't know. I think it works the way it's being proposed. We got 3 people that kind of agree.
Yeah, I mean, for this particular instance, I'm fine with the recommendations that the planning board has made, and I'm comfortable with the picks they had. If we want to move forward with that for now, and maybe put something in writing or have Will research what other towns are doing to formalize something, I'm, fine with that going forward. But I don't see the need to bring any other candidates in at this time for this position.
And right now, there's 3 people to say, we're satisfied with what's coming before us. Let's choose from those 2. If one person changed and wants to interview 3 candidates out of the 4, we would do the 3 out of the 4. I don't know. Okay. Right now it's 3-2. We will have an executive session for the next meeting. I'll try to write something up, but the bottom line is not going to be clear in the end because we're going to keep going around. Which way does it go? I'll try to write up the best I can. It won't be confusing. We make the final decision. Right now, if another board member says, let's interview all the candidates, we will interview all the candidates. I don't know how much better it can be. I don't think it's confusing. Okay. We'll have an executive session for the next meeting to interview the 2 candidates who came forward. I'll write something up and see if that's the policy we want, and we'll discuss it again. Either we interview or we interview and choose and don't send them to the boards, because we're not going to listen to the board's recommendation. Not that we have to listen to them, but they send us 2 candidates which they feel are qualified. And if I didn't think either one of them are qualified, I'd say, I want to see the whole pool. And if someone else agreed with me, we would interview the entire pool. Okay. We'll move forward. Okay, I make a motion to go into the regular portion of the meeting.
Second.
Favor?
Aye.
Okay, regular meeting, waive the readings of correspondence. Number 2, approval of the voucher list, $1,521,577.48. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Waive the reading of the budget transfers, setting of the meeting dates and public hearings. All meetings will be held at 1360 Route 22, Brewster, New York, at 7 p.m. unless otherwise noted. Thursday, April 8th, 2021, Thursday, April 22, 2021. Now for a slight discussion. Do we want to go back to live meetings? Are we going to continue to Zoom? The government allows us to continue to Zoom. What do we want to do? A lot of things are opening up. Restaurants are opening up. Are we going to open the meetings? Are we going to continue with Zoom?
For now, Zoom, just because I still think it's.
You're breaking up, Edwin, a bunch.
Oh, I said, I still think we should continue to Zoom. In my opinion, it's still too early. If you hear, depends who you want to believe, things will probably get a little better by the fall, after maybe in May when vaccinations are open to everybody. And I think we just err on the side of caution for a little while longer. But, I don't mind Zoom, but I don't really have an objection to being, to going back to the office, so to speak. But I think we should hold off for a little while longer.
Anyone else? John Lord?
I agree. I prefer to keep Zooming until things are a little bit more settled. I've got both my vaccinations, but that doesn't mean that I can't carry the virus and transmit it to someone else. So at this point, I think, and we also have to be, I think, concerned with people that might attend our meetings and what we might be exposing them to. So I would prefer to keep Zooming for the time being.
One more. I can flip a coin.
I've got my vaccinations, John, if you want to sit next to me. So
I got mine.
I think I'm the only one here that's not vaccinated. Yeah.
Yes, because you're too young. You didn't get the teenagers yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Eric or John?
John, you would know more about this than I would. I'd be curious to hear your opinion.
Well, the executive order still stands, right? So I can't give you an exact answer because I think they've just pushed out to April 4th again.
Okay.
So
we'll put it off to, we'll put it off. We'll discuss it again in the future. Next meeting?
I think maybe, like another meeting, we should see where it's at, because I think the the date for the suspension of the public hearings or the public meeting law for in-person use is April 4th. So whatever our meeting is like just prior to that.
Okay, well, once a month we do this, so the next month that this comes up, we'll discuss it again. Okay, right now, we're zooming.
It may be good to wait until we can, open the windows in the courthouse and get some fresh air in there for the meetings or something, a little bit warmer.
Okay. Okay, all in favor? And we're voting on the dates. We're still zooming, okay? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 5, resolution, appoint consulting landscape architect to the planning board. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast accepts the proposal of Aspect 120 North 90 North Broadway, Irvington, New York 10533, and hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute a contract with Aspect 120 for such service for an initial term expiring December 31, 2023, and containing the option to extend such contract for 2 additional 1-year periods. And be further resolved, this resolution shall take effect immediately. So moved.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Number 6, resolution, Foggentown Road LLC settlement certiorari proceedings. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast does hereby accept the recommendations of its professional advisors and authorizes the town attorney to execute stipulation of settlement, consent judgment, and/or order of consent in accordance with said recommendation for the following. Petitioner, Foggentown LLC, tax ID 35.1-10, year 2020, assessment 502,900, settlement assessment 430,300, tax ID 46.6-1-39, year 2020, assessment 256,800, settled assessment $219,700. And be further resolved that the town attorney is hereby authorized and directed to execute any all stipulations, consent orders, or documents necessary to reflect the foregoing settlements. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Now, we had 2 additional items come in that I'd like to waive the rules for and bring them forward. We'll do one at a time. So the first one would be AHANA Hospitality LLC is a settlement of a certiorari proceedings which came in, just before the meeting, and I would label this as number 7. So on the motion to accept the additional, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. The resolution reads as follows. Now therefore resolved that the town board of the town of Southeast does hereby accept the recommendation of its professional advisors and authorize the town attorney to execute a stipulation of settlement, consent judgment, and/or order on consent in accordance with said recommendation for the following. Petitioner, I think it's, I don't even want to say it, AHANA Hospitality, tax ID 68.14-1-30, year 2020, assessment 5 million, settled assessment 4.8 million. And be further resolved that the town attorney is hereby authorized and directed to execute any all stipulations, consent orders, or other documents necessary to reflect the foregoing settlements. So move
Just so
for
you all
discussion.
know, that's the Best Western former Fox Ridge property.
Okay. Is there a second for discussion?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, a new number 8 will be acceptance of a bid award of a contract for bulk container refuse collection and removal services. This one's on the agenda tonight because the contract will go into effect April 1st, and our next meeting will be April 8th. So on the motion to accept the additional, all in favor?
Aye.
Eric, you say want something?
Do you need a second for that or no?
Didn't I just,
No, no second. You didn't give. a
not,
second.
now, we're doing the second now.
Second.
Oh, we didn't, oh,
Consider it.
okay. So that was on, so we are all in agreement to put it on for an additional. Now on the resolution itself. Now therefore be resolved that the town board of Town of Southeast accept the proposal of Oak Ridge Waste and Recycling in accordance with the proposal for a total fixed price of $17,665 per year for a period of 3 years commencing April 1, 2021, and authorize the supervisor to execute and deliver a contract in form and substance approved by the town attorney for such purpose. And be further resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed to forward a copy of this resolution to the town accounting department and the town facilities and special districts administration forthwith. So move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, now to move forward with the supervisor's report. We're still into March, so it's too early to tell where things are heading. The one good direction we're going in this year is actually the last year, Will was able to implement something here in the town, and I think other towns are going to this as well, is having plea by mail. And it's really helped out tremendously. It's relieved the burden off the courts themselves, poured it more on the Will and his team. But they're doing a great job. So the revenues are flowing, more people are doing it. So that's a good thing. As far as last year, I know, John, let's see. Our surplus, a little over 3 million at this point in time. The highway departments there's two lines that they have. One is for 1.6 and the other one is for 1.3. Now, what that is there's outside town and inside town. How do I say inside town? Out of town, the village does not participate in each part of it. The monies can only spend accordingly. Mike is gonna be putting forward some items pretty soon. We put forward a truck. We don't quite have the number yet for what they're gonna do with the state until their budget comes forward. We're steering here 20 to 50% reduction in the CHIPS money. So we're waiting to hear from that, but hopefully by next month, we will have that information.
Okay.
Okay. Ready for public comment?
Yes.
Okay. Eric, tell me how to do the public comments, if you would.
Yeah, so I have it open, so you can just unmute yourselves if you'd like to make public comment.
Good evening, everyone. It's Scott Seaman from the Brewster Board of Ed. Hope you enjoyed your St. Patrick's Day yesterday. Just want to give a quick update. We have brought the students with IEPs back into the schools. And right now they're working on bringing the K-5 students back in. With continued mask wears, there'll be dividers and such provided. But hopefully we'll be back in a couple of days, followed by after break with the middle school and high school students coming in as well. So those that choose to come in will be in the schools 5 days a week, while we will still have the distance learning for, I think the number is about approximately 20-25% of the students will be finishing out their year that way. We're looking to working on our budget, finalizing that for the year, and bringing in more resources for our students based on the learning loss and the huge mental issues that we have been finding through the district. So we're trying to add additional resources at this time. Once again, we thank you guys for your help on our behalf. And if there's anything we can do, please let us know.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? Town board
Again,
members?
You can, just for the public, you can unmute yourselves on the lower left-hand side if you'd like to say anything. Okay, I think we're good.
Town board members?
Yeah, I wondered, I saw in emails that you sent out earlier, something about going to the, sending letters to the seniors about programs going forward. Have they been contacted, and is anything ongoing with getting them?
We're hoping to reopen, socially distanced, properly distanced, about April 13th, I think it is, to bring them in. We'll limit the number of people, 2 to a table. I think there's no more than 20 per whatever. They've been cooped up for a long time. We'll be taking their temperatures, doing all the proper social distancing. We are asking all the seniors as we're doing the survey about that. We're trying to find out who may not have received the COVID shots and make sure they get them. Of course, they want to know, can we have more people who have COVID shots? And the answer to that was no. We're going to practice whatever the government says until said time that they reduce the regulations on social distancing. So we've been in contact with them, getting a good reception, but they really all want to be together, but it's not going to happen yet.
Good. At least we're in touch with them, and at least they.
John, we've been in touch with them a lot. They're not happy with us because we're not letting them come into, but that's the breaks of the game.
And are we able to help the Cultural Arts Coalition with the roof thing and with engineering?
I'm not going to say no, but I'm saying no. John, sometimes people don't get it. You have to understand. We have a lease with them where we reduced some of the fees. I read what you read, but what you don't understand, the town did a deal way back when. They get that building for $10 a year, okay? They've had some bad times. Everyone's had bad times. They have to live with it. We are going to help them the best we can. We can't expend any money on truly on a private organization by just getting the rents that they're getting. And the town needs more space than we have. So if anything, I'd love the space back, but we're going to live up to our obligation. They're going to live up to theirs. And there's other things going on, which I can't reveal in public at the moment, but there are things going on that we will be hearing about soon. And I will share it all of you once we make a little more progress in where the future may be. That's the best I can say.
Yeah, I wasn't alluding to my email. I was asking about whether we were able to help them with the roof, with getting a truck to help them assess the damage up there, and also with helping them looking at the plans with the engineering.
Okay, as far as the roof, again, there's a lot of things being considered that I can't share with the public at this point in time. I'm not even sharing 100% with you guys because we're still in a process of doing something. But I did check with the highway department. We have a bucket truck. Now, Mike has found a new bucket truck that reaches even further. So Mike hasn't come back and told me because the weather's off and on, iffy and whatever. Yes, they will be helped. If our bucket truck does not reach the roof, we will provide them with either our bucket truck or I will ask the Brewster Fire Department, who's always been there for us, to get up on that roof to help us out. So that's not a problem. As far as the other, I have to talk with the building inspector to see what they can do. We will help them to the best of our ability.
Cool. And can I ask a question about that? I think Ahana, that's the one that we had a certiorari agreement tonight. Okay. That's the old Fox Ridge Motel. Is that open yet or no?
Yes, it is open.
It is, and they're paying pilot, I guess, at this point.
I don't believe they made the pilot for this year. By the time they got their final approval and everything, they missed the deadline for taxes for this year. So they're paying like a regular fee, I believe. And next year they will go on to the pilot, but it did not take effect this year.
Okay. And Will, I see you sent me an email just moments ago about the Pro Swing thing. So we're not signing anything yet, right? We're still talking to them.
Well, I think the contract that I forwarded to all the board members is the negotiated agreement for the swap of the two lands. They can't start with the planning board until they're in contract with us to acquire the land on Pugsley Road. And the process is that they'd be swapping the Star Ridge Road land for the Pugsley Road land. And when you read my response to your earlier email, you'll see that I've worked very hard to make sure that this process is done at no cost to the town. But unless there's some substantive issues with that agreement, we really can't go forward until the supervisor signs it. The supervisor already has authority to sign an agreement that is, in the opinion of the town attorney, satisfactory. So I'm presenting it to you for your input. If you've got substantive issues that you want addressed in the contract, please let me know ASAP, because everything is standing in limbo until such time as we have a signed agreement. That includes our ability to go on that property.
Now, Will, one of the questions I think I've been asked by maybe 2 town board members, are we responsible for any of the attorney fees in this transaction?
Well, I'm the attorney and I'm a salaried employee of the town. So we're not, I'm providing the legal services.
I agree. Okay, so John, I think Will has responded. If you have something you can add to it, any of the town board members, contact Will if you think there's something there you want to review.
Thanks. No, I didn't mean to get into contractual things in the meeting. I was just asking how far along we were. So thanks a lot for.
Okay. Anyone else?
Yeah, Tony, I had something that I just wanted to run by the board quick. Senator Peter Harkam has put forward a bill. It's number 4547. A member of the public reached out to me and brought this to my attention. And I believe that the Patterson Town Board has also been reviewing it and will be issuing a letter to not support it or against it.
All the town, Eric, just so you know, all the towns, including myself with the supervisors, we do plan hopefully to bring something forward.
For this bill?
Yes.
Okay. Yep. So it's related to accessory dwelling units. It basically takes away any power that the town has to regulate or enforce the laws that we have. So I'll send this to you guys so you have it, but I'm glad to hear that, Tony. So
There's been a lot of chatter this past week about it, and I believe we were going to have one resolution, but I think the final decision by the supervisors, if each town board passes one, there'll be 6 people on record instead of 6 on one sheet of paper, so to speak. So we'll have that probably for the next meeting.
It's egregious in my opinion. So
it is.
Good. Thank you.
Anyone else? I will entertain a motion.
Yeah, I think, Tony, we also were going to select the Earth Day pickup.
Oh, yeah. John, come on, open up. Let's go.
So it's going to be April 24th and 25th. That's the weekend that we've selected. And we'll have some information on the town website. The bags, gloves and vests can be picked up from Town Hall from 7 in the morning until noon on Saturday the 24th and Sunday the 25th. And we'd like it if you could please let us know the roads you're going to be picking up from. And you would be leaving the bags on the road. They'll be picked up by the highway department the following week. But please look at we'll have more information on the website.
And what fool's going to be here at 7 o'clock in the morning handing out bags? And
I think you said you were going to be the fool.
Saturday and Sunday, I'm here all the time. So if you guys want to come in, be my guest. But we're going to put that on the webpage, John. And again, we're looking for, when you're out there this year helping out, notify the town, take some pictures. It's a great effort on behalf of many of the people in the public. Some people want to be recognized, some don't want to be recognized. But come here, get your bags, and it'll be posted on the webpage. And we'll have it on the website, and probably the village is participating with us too, right, John?
Sorry?
The village will be participating as well.
Villages as well. And what we're going to be saying on the website is if you would like to continue the tradition of Earth Day and pick up roadside litter, please contact us. We are planning to make bags, gloves, and vests available to individuals and groups for use for the weekend of April 24th and 25. Supplies can be picked up between 7 a.m. and 12 noon on both Saturday and Sunday from Town Hall. Please call Supervisor Hay at 845-279-5345 to pick up, to make an appointment to pick up the bags from Town Hall. Again, we'll need to know your name, email address and phone number and the roads you intend to clean up and the number of bags you think you will need. If you decide to participate, please be very careful. Wear gloves and a mask. Do not congregate in groups and practice safe distancing from others. Please wear protective clothing. Please arm yourself against tick bites. And photos are welcome for posting on the town webpage. Be sure to identify those who participate in your groups. So thanks a lot.
Okay, and the most important things, ladies and gentlemen, when you do this, just notify the town where those bags are so we can get them picked up the Monday after the event. So that Saturday and Sunday, put your bag on the road, identify what road they're on so we can pick them up. Because once the bag is out there for more than a couple of days, you know, rodents get in them, deer get in them, whatever. Just, we want to get them picked up off the street, but we have to know where they are. Okay, anyone else? I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to close tonight's meeting.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all for coming. Have a good evening.
Thank
Good
you.
night.